There has been an awful lot of talk lately, going on for a couple months now, about whether Netflix can survive Disney starting their own over-the-top streaming service. While creating these sensationalist headlines is part of what the 24-hour news cycle has to do, right now we gotta pull a Peter Thiel and object to the question. See, the way the story is being presented to us, there is going to be a winner and a loser. There's Netflix and there's Hulu. One of them's gonna win, one of them's gonna lose. There's Netflix and Disney's gonna come out. One of them is going to win and one of them is going to lose. That's how it is presented to us. We have to pick one or the other. Who's gonna win, who's gonna lose. But that's not necessarily the case in reality. So we need to object to that question of who is going to win and instead ask ourselves, hey, is it possible that maybe more than one person can win equally, not even necessarily cannibalizing each other all that much? Here is what Amazon founder Jeff Bezos said about competing with Netflix.
Where you're trying to be bigger than Netflix or bigger than Comcast or
no, I would
whatever.
say, and in fact, I don't even think on the demand side anyway, we don't compete. I would say we don't compete with Netflix for the reason I think people are going to subscribe to both. So I don't think, some products are really substitute products and people make a decision. If I'm going to buy a pickup truck, I'm going to buy a Ford pickup truck or a Chevy pickup truck, but I'm not going to buy both. And, but when it comes to these over-the-top subscriptions, I think people are going to subscribe to Netflix and Prime Video and Hulu and HBO.
Every single time I hear the quote-unquote experts saying increasing competition for Netflix, I remember this common sense, logical answer by the most successful business person on the planet. If in my household, I personally pay for Netflix, pay for Amazon Prime, and pay for Hulu, and I get access to HBO from a family member's login, then why would I imagine anyone else is different? When Disney comes out, I'm probably going to go ahead and pay for their over-the-top service, considering last I heard, Disney CEO Bob Iger said the service is probably only going to cost around $3.99 a month. Iger also openly stated Disney is not trying to compete with Netflix, as the Disney service will have, the streaming service will have far less content compared to Netflix. Meaning, for the time being, the Disney streaming service is going to be, it's going to be more akin to how premium channels like HBO relate to standard cable, right? The premium channels are an add-on, not a replacement. Disney, at least initially, won't have enough content to replace Netflix. It will primarily be something that people purchase in addition to Netflix. Investors are fantastic at looking at graphs and looking at numbers, but they're not always as good at listening to what the CEO of a company says.
Do you feel like we're hitting some sort of inflection point with streaming video? You have your digital peers, soon perhaps competitors, pivoting to Hollywood video. We have a slew of SVOD services that will be launching over the next couple of quarters. You have the traditional media companies thinking about diving into direct-to-consumer themselves. Do you see a real sort of inflection point in the marketplace?
Well, Wall Street loves inflection points, so I'd love to say yes, but no, I think it's pretty much steady growth. I mean, we've seen new competitors increase streaming around the world, new devices, new formats. It's just been a continuous evolution. We started streaming 10 years ago now. We're now completing our 11th year of streaming. So I'd say overall, more of the same and continued great success for streaming. And, other key things in Q4 were, as you pointed out, just the continued growth of internet TV. And we see that because Hulu's also growing, YouTube is also growing. And so it's great that we're keeping up with this big internet-driven transformation and that we're pleasing our members with this extraordinary 8 million net add quarter.
When I see Reed Hastings' relaxed answers, it gives me confidence as an investor. You can receive insight from his answers, his vocal tonality, his facial expressions that you simply cannot receive from looking at data. Just pause for a moment and imagine you don't know anything about Netflix. You've never even heard of the company, and all you had to go off of was what you just saw. Would you say that company was going to succeed or fail? When you look at the body language, when you look at how relaxed the CEO is, when you look at his facial expressions, when you listen to what he says, does this sound like a man who knows his company is awesome and it's growing and it's going to succeed? Or does this sound like a man who is running a company into the ground? So, you have Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos stating they do not compete with Netflix and people will purchase multiple streaming services. You have Disney CEO Bob Iger stating they won't have enough content to compete with Netflix and are not aiming, at least initially, to compete with Netflix. And you have Netflix CEO himself, Reed Hastings, stating business is good as usual. And, my interpretation, a rising tide raises all ships. They're all growing. Hulu is growing. Netflix is growing. YouTube is growing. I would assume that the Disney app is probably going to do well as well once it comes out. Now, I'm not saying that Netflix stock can't temporarily go down and go down big, because it can, especially if it reports poor user growth on any given quarter. That's the risk we must take for high-flying stocks. But over the next several years, I believe there is still a lot of runway for this company internationally. Full disclosure, Netflix is currently tied with Amazon as the largest position in my portfolio from a money invested standpoint and is my largest position from a market value standpoint. Have a great day. If there's any stocks you want me to look into, let me know.